Welcome back to Montober. Today is going to be the first of a three-part review for the 1997 Shining miniseries directed by Mick Garrison. It had just come to my attention that this month, that in September, well, that's when I'm recording this, that the actor Melvin Van Peebles, who played Halloran in this one, passed away, so it seemed like a good time to do the review. This one, I think, up front, even though I'm willing to meet the film's detractors halfway and say it has its problems, it does have its problems, but I still think it's very enjoyable, and it's also a better character film. There's more characterization in this. That you can't deny, even if you can debate which film has the better performances, but Jack Nicholson goes from this, what I like to call functionally insane, to this raving lunatic. There's no in between. From the beginning, he looks like he's just tolerating his family's existence, where Steven Weber, who plays Jack in this film, which is a more closer to one-to-one adaptation of the book, and just something cool I thought I'd show you guys. It's not a first edition, but I have an original copy from the 70s with the old school dust jacket. But anyway, he's a more closer adaptation to that, where we get more of Jack's troubled past, where he, in a drunken fit, broke his son's arm on accident. And the aftermath of that scene is really nice because you can see the regret, like how much hatred and fear he has for himself after doing it. And his wife, played by Rebecca De Mornay, who, again, this characterization is infinitely better. She's smart, she's resourceful. She tells him, if this happens again, I'm leaving, and he's like, you won't have to. If something like this ever happens again, one way or another, I'll leave. It begins with him getting a tour of the hotel by the maintenance man, whatever he keeps he's the one that qualified for the boilers and stuff. Yeah, maintenance man. I don't know why I got tripped up with that, but he's showing Jack the boiler and how this is rusted shut, so you're going to have to relieve the pressure every day or it will blow. And yeah, the manager, he does describe him as kind of a cheapskate, and no one seems to like him. When we meet the manager, he even talks to Jack like he's a dog. But what I like in the scene where him and this maintenance man are discussing the Overlook and its past, the guy's like, every hotel has its dark history, so on and so such, and he goes, what about its ghost? Does every hotel have its ghosts? And the guy freezes up, and he's like, no ghosts. And you can see his whole body language and everything changes. That's a great moment. Then we meet the wife, played by Rebecca De Mornay, and Danny. Again, I'm willing to admit, Danny was not a great kid actor, the kid that played him, but not a lot of child actors are. For every Miko Hughes from Pet Sematary or Daniel Harris from Halloween 4, there's like 50 child actors that are not anywhere near as good. And I'm not going to be that guy to bash on a kid's acting, but I will say this, a lot of the takes in this film, it feels like the scenes like they were maybe one or two takes and get to the next scene quick because they had time and budget to get through. It wasn't like a bigger budget movie where the director would probably do 50 different takes from different angles, have them deliver the lines the best of the way, and choose from the best of the best. So again, I'm willing to cut it some slack, and there are some of the scenes I think the kid is better than others. And they're talking about it, and he's talking about his shining without knowing what it is. Yeah, Daddy got the job, and I know him and the manager didn't like each other much, but they got it. The manager, to me, he talks about how, this hotel's been running the black for all these years, in seeing how he won't pay for the new release valve for the boiler, and how he even has Jack fix the roof of the hotel. It's probably running the black because he's a cheapskate that cuts corners. But Jack gets home, and Danny has a moment where he has a vision of a bloody croquet mallet. And then Jack comes out of the car and he's playing with his son, throwing him up, catching him, and the wife, "Be careful, Jack, don't drop him." And Jack puts him down, and even though he's happy to see her, you can tell that's an unintentional little dig that, in her defense, he did betray the trust and they're trying to rebuild it, but those little digs keep on getting to him. Eventually, so they talk about it. We see some flash. I think that's where we see the flashback where his other problem, where he had to cut a student from the debate team before he got fired as a teacher, and that student slashed his tires, and he got mad and just saw someone slashing his tires and started pummeling him, only to be a student, and he gets fired. And then we have a nice scene, and I love this scene. He's calling his sponsor. They're struggling so much now, they don't even have a phone, and he's using a payphone by a bar. And what I love about this scene is after he hangs up, he sees the bar, he walks up to the window, and there's this guy who turns around and raises a drink to him, and you see the struggle in Jack. He wants that drink. He knows that drink will make him feel better, but he also knows that drink might cost him his family, and it's a well-acted moment. Again, I don't get... This film has horrible performances. This scene proves it wrong. When they get to the hotel, which you can tell on this one, they're having fun on the ride to the hotel, where the Kubrick version, it just looks like a tense situation the whole way. But when they get to the hotel, they meet Halloran, played by Melvin Van Peebles, and some of the stuff is similar to how it was in the Kubrick version, only in this case, he has Danny come with him outside and help him put the luggage in the cars for him and the maintenance guy there are getting ready to leave. And Melvin Van Peebles did great. He feels warm and grandfatherly. He also has an intensity. He mentors Danny about his shining. And then he tells him, "Look, call for me if something goes wrong. Even if I hear it in Florida, I'll come running." And it's a nice scene. You can tell these characters do get along. There's a warmth and a friendliness to them. After they leave, Jack's fixing the roof, and he finds a hornet's nest. He gets stung, he sprays it, gives the nest to Danny, and the wife even questions, "Jack, are you sure that's safe?" And he's like, "Yeah, I bug bombed it like the directions said." And again, it's some of those unintentional little jabs that, yeah, I understand. He destroyed the trust, and she's probably going to be second guessing him for a long time to come until he proves himself. But it's those little jabs that are not good for the mental well-being of your husband. Any ladies watching this, if you're kind of in the habit of giving your husband those subtle little jabs, even if it's not intentional, which in this case I don't believe it is, be aware of it, because it's not good for your husband. But this hornet's nest, it's a great metaphor for alcoholism. You may think having it around your family is harmless, it's not going to hurt anyone, but eventually your family's going to get hurt by it, and your kid is probably going to get hurt the worse, which is what happens when the hornet's in the nest come to life and sting Danny, and they get stung. He gets a glass container from the kitchen, puts it over the nest, and takes one of his son's puzzle boards and brings the nest outside and lets them freeze. And because of an earlier scene where Daniel's talking to Tony, he's an imaginary friend who he doesn't do the stupid annoying finger thing. Tony is actually an entity Danny talks to, which in the book is Danny from the future, and they find him in the bathroom after breaking the door open with his drooling from the mouth, and Jack gets scared and he's like shaking him, and he accidentally hits his head against the toilet, and the wife just, again, one of those jabs. You keep your hands off of him, and you can tell, like, what she did, it wasn't really necessary, but again, you can't blame him because it was clearly not intentional. He was scared. He apologizes to both of them, and they agree, okay, we'll take him to the doctor tomorrow. Now, some of the other stuff I want to touch up on before I leave is the CG does have its problems. Late 90s, especially TV CG, wasn't that good. I'll talk about the hedge animals in part 2, but there's a scene in this with a fire hose that has teeth, and it's such a quick cut scene that for me, it's really not that bad. It happens so quick, you don't really get time to register it, and it's certainly passable. If this was a bigger budget movie and that scene was in the movie in the same quality, it wouldn't have been as bad, but I'll get into the rest of the stuff later. Like I said, I love this version, but I'm willing to meet its detractors halfway and acknowledge it does have its problems, but I do think there are reasons for some of the problems, and I do recommend checking out this movie and the miniseries and seeing it for yourself. It's 3 parts. It's really not something that's meant to be binge watched. It's best watched over the course of 3 nights as it originally aired. Preferably 3 cold nights, but if you watch it over the course of 3 nights with some understanding and forgiving eyes, realizing this came in a time when computer effects weren't fully into their maturity, I think you'd like it. Another cool touch is the film is filmed in the Stanley Hotel, which is where Stephen King got the inspiration for the book, and I love the look of the Stanley Hotel. It looks more old world than the hotel from the Kubrick movie, although that hotel does look good on film. I'm not bashing it, but what I like about the Stanley is it feels more old world, like the Biltmore House from here where I live in North Carolina, which is America's largest estate. You should look it up pretty time. That's interesting, but the Stanley not only having that more old world feel, but knowing it's what inspired Stephen King, where Stephen King got the inspiration to write the book, I think it's a stronger setting, and the Stanley version of The Overlook feels more like a character. I'll give part 1 a C+. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Over and out.